Hey guys, a couple of stories on batteries and charging batteries. Two are what I would describe as cautionary tales, and one is a little bit more uplifting. First one I'm going to call my dodged a bullet story, which relates to this inspection torch I got quite a while ago. I can't remember exactly how long ago. But it was advertised as rechargeable with a 3.5 volt lithium cell in it, and it came with this charger, which says it does both 1.2 volt and 3.6 volt on it. So normally what I tend to do in the workshop is if a battery goes flat that needs charging, I just stick it in its charger, plug it in the bench at the end of the day, and leave it there overnight. Might not be the best idea, certainly isn't after this experience, but anyway, so I don't do it anymore. Anyway, so I had put the battery in this charger and charged it a number of times, and I noticed, for instance, that it has a little LED on the bottom here, which is red when the battery is not charged, and then it goes green when the battery is charged. And the first time I charged this thing up, it seemed to go okay, but then every other time when I'd put the battery in here, it would go green almost immediately. And of course it's not charged at all, but I found if I left it for hours, even though the light stayed green the whole time, when I came back it had at least some charge in it. So anyway, I decided in the end that probably I needed to replace the battery in here. And so I took it out of here and had a look. And to my horror, I discovered it's not a lithium ion battery. It's a lithium thionyl chloride battery, which clearly says on the side of it, do not recharge. So, there you go. I think what made me suspicious that I needed to change this was the last time I put it in this charger and let it charge, it was actually during the daytime. And so when I took it out of the charger, this thing was so hot I couldn't hold it. And so the reason I think I've dodged a bullet here is this thing probably could have just exploded or caught fire at any time while I was asleep, and the whole workshop here would be gone up in flames. So, lesson learned. But as I say, it came like this: torch, battery, charger. So I got some more non-chargeable batteries, but they're a tad expensive. So I don't think this little torch here is going to be a long-term solution. I think I'll be getting something that uses more conventional chargeable cells. But it's a shame, really, because I really like the size. This one is just the right size, and of course you can get them that take 3 AA cells that you can recharge, but then it's a much bigger, chunkier sort of thing. Anyway, just thought I'd share that with you. Just because something comes all nicely packaged up as a rechargeable whatever, it is definitely a good idea to examine the battery before you go charging it. So that's, if you like, story number one. Number two relates to my Samsung Galaxy S7 or whatever you call it. This came with this particular charger, which is marked, which it says is an adaptive fast charging device, and it has a plus 5 volt with a current rating and a plus 9 point something volt with a current rating. So when I plug this in to charge up the phone immediately says fast charging. And so the first time I did it, I just left it for like an hour or something while I was at work charging away. And when I picked it up, it was so hot I kind of dropped it. Luckily not on the floor, just dropped it back on the bench, and I thought, wow, that is way too hot for what I would expect. So a couple of days later, I was having lunch with some colleagues who coincidentally had maybe not exactly the same model of a Samsung phone, but very similar. And I mentioned this, and they both said they'd experienced the same thing, that it got extremely hot when it's charging. And so I replaced mine with a regular 5-volt, 2 amp USB type charger. And okay, it obviously takes longer to charge, but there's almost no increase in temperature while it's charging. And so from my perspective, one of the main things that will shorten the life of a battery, a rechargeable battery, is overheating. And this thing, in my perspective, I don't care if it says it's, within tolerance or whatever, but if I pick something up and it's so hot that it almost makes me drop it again, something's wrong. I got hold of a couple of other standard 2-volt chargers from my colleagues and advised them to junk this because at best it's going to shorten the life of the phone, and since you can't replace the battery, it's just going to prematurely make your phone life expire. And worst case scenario, we might have something like happens apparently these notes that we've all read about that seem to go bang or catch fire and do all sorts of nasty things. So that's another cautionary tale. I might be being over careful here, but I don't think so. And so from here on, I'm just using a regular charger, and this thing is out of commission, not used. That's that. My final story is, as I say, a little bit more encouraging. This is an Arcos 504 media player, which is a very old. It's at least 10 years old. And when my day job had me traveling all over the planet, this thing came with me pretty much everywhere, because it does music, movies, photos, whatever. It also came with goodies like a camera and other things, so you could capture video onto it, all sorts of things. And my main interest when I was traveling was to have movies on it for long flights, not necessarily music, although that was important as well. Anyway, obviously this has a rechargeable battery, but unlike the modern devices, it's detachable and you can get a replacement, or at least you could back in the day. And so, yeah, you could put this in the bag with 1 or 2 spare batteries, fly to Hong Kong, and you're good. It's going to take you all the way there. And so, as I say, this guy has been with me for a long time now. The battery doesn't charge anymore, doesn't hold the charge. However, I did a quick check online, and this has such a, if you like, a loyal following that there are third parties make replacement batteries for this. And there is a lot of, if you like, activity on forums about hacking this thing, because one of the rather unfortunate nasty things they did in the latest revision of firmware is they linked the physical serial number of the hard disk with the firmware in the machine when it was being made, so that you couldn't replace the hard disk. If you put a new disk in it, it just refused to recognize it because the serial number wouldn't match. However, I did find, I don't know if it's still around, but I did find there was a guy in the website in the US who, if you would send him the details of your existing hard drive that was in there, he would actually modify the serial number of a new disk to make it look like your one and send it to you, and you could upgrade the disk. And that's what I did, and so this has a 320 gig instead of the original 60. And it works fine. The only problem is, or the only slight difference is, it takes a little bit longer, when it's scanning and when it's searching and all that sort of stuff, which is fine. So as I say, I don't know how many air miles this thing has clocked up, but it's a lot, that's for sure.